Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, welcome, everybody. Wow, that was the best energy burst that I've had all day, and that's the truth. Oh my goodness. I have been relaxing. I have been taking in conversations on topics that I haven't been taking in for a while. When I went full time, I had to focus a little bit, and when you focus on one subject, you can absorb that a lot better. But I am such a multitasker and I want to do a good job in what I do. So I have to be able to absorb conversations. And sometimes when I'm spread too thin, right, that's when I have to recognize that I just have to go like this a little bit and just focus and I've been doing that, Uh, Hi. If you've never met me before, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And we're going to give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. Let people know I've gone live, right? I get right into it sometimes. It is that signal for me when I hit that live button and that signal comes up that says you're live. And it's like a switch in that moment. And quite often when I come in live, if you've hung out with me for any length of time, you'll see quite often I come in with little giggles and stuff because it's that little bit of tug of war, right? That I have with myself every time I go live. It's that little bit of insecurity. Sometimes it's not having a definitive idea of what the topic is going to be about. Very rarely do, in all honesty. Sometimes I come in and I spiel about the day and the lessons that come up for myself, and in that mixing it, when I'm live, that working through that, it's maybe a way for somebody to look at that and say, hey, maybe that will seem so hard. That wasn't so triggering. I managed that okay, right? I was able to smile through it. And lots of times, right, that's the best that we can hope for, right? Especially when you look out at the world and you see all the crazy town and everything, and you wonder, holy cow, how do you keep it all together? It is this, right? It is that hyper focusing and just looking straight forward and being on the path that you're supposed to be and not paying attention so much, right? Because we can't help it, right? We're moving forward, but as we move forward, we'd like to scoop up along the way, wouldn't we? And in scooping up along the way, well, we end up having those experiences. We end up sitting in on conversations. We end up stalling ourselves out. We end up playing with relationships that are either meant to support us in that movement or, right, really, really messed it up and it ends up tripping us up, in that movement. And, it's that little bit of a dance. If you have hung out with me for any length of time, I just gave my 2 weeks notice. Friday was my last day in that job that puts the roof over my head in the moment. And just in giving my notice, it was an incredible experience. It turned out so much better than what I expected. And what did I expect? Probably that it was going to blow up in my face. I didn't say so because I'm always somebody who's an optimist. I always look at the best thing, and I also understand that everything is going. And if I stir that pot, if I have those conversations, right? Sometimes you put your foot in your mouth. Sometimes you jump to conclusions. Sometimes it is in that judgment, right? That we end up messing with what's supposed to be. and what's supposed to be is going to be. But in having those conversations and experience and stuff, right, it's going to dictate how comfortable that experience is going to be, right? How fun it's going to be, how adventurous it's going to be, right? And those dynamic relationships that you possibly may have played a little bit too much with, even before you had an opportunity to step into them or even recognize that at some point they were going to be important relationships, right? That little bit of movement is just a bunch of trying to stay one step ahead. I know it's impossible. I know it's impossible sometimes, but in our hypervigilance, in our optimistic ideals, we really do believe sometimes that we have that sense of control, that we can dictate how things are going to work out. And I was so wrong in how things worked out for me in giving my 2 weeks notice. I'd never been so touched in my entire life, and I'd have to say it was pretty incredible. I was blown away, and it was so heartfelt that I actually recognized my contribution, right? And even though, I was looking at the wrong characters for that validation, that's 100% the truth. And if I hadn't had that opportunity to go through those 2 weeks and have the experience that I did, that I really didn't, well, I had some say in that, because again, I could have put my foot in my mouth. I could have got rah, 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 right? It could have been so much different, and the outcome would have been different, and I wouldn't have left having the feelings that I have, that I think it was meant for me to have those feelings of sadness, because that was the job that put the roof over my head. And even though it wasn't my dream job, it was an amazing job, and it made it possible for me to practice my craft. And I know I'm on repeat this week, but it was an incredible experience, you know, in how it all played out. And it's not over yet, right? Because I'm still have no idea how this is all going to play out in the end, if at all, right? But it's going to be a mix of my choices, right? Again, those conversations, experiences, the good ones and the bad ones, that are going to rub up against what is meant to be, right? And it will change the way it feels, but it's still going to happen. I believe in that. Just like I know tomorrow I'm going to wake up and the day is going to start afresh, right? And I could make a choice at any moment. 2 weeks ago, I had no idea that I wasn't going to have a roof over my head. I had no idea, right? I knew that it was time for me to move forward, right? But sometimes in that hesitancy of how we're going to put the roof over our head, we procrastinate. We don't trust and believe in all those lessons that supposedly, right, that we have taken in, right, that we actually absorbed them properly. And I absorbed them, but in my nervousness, in my hypervigilance, and in that looking for a perfect moment, that I may have stalled out a little bit, or I did find that perfect moment, that I set it up perfectly, that it might offer up opportunities for a little bit of movement or a little bit of alleviation for a little bit of movement that I want to make, right? And again, none of it is played out yet. I am relaxing. I am, right? I am in a little bit of contemplation, and I'm a little bit in that speculation. Of course, I'm in that speculation. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm not, right? I have no idea what's coming up. But in those conversations, in those experiences, in that preparedness, and in that opportunity to make some choices, right? That maybe not dictated, but maybe directed in a direction, knowing that I am just a partner in what and how things are going to play out. This is a team effort. Yay. Team Team Cindy. That's awesome. And we should be our own, for each one of us, our own cheerleader, our own coach, our own coach at some point, right? We've got to understand that, right? All those lessons have got to come into play, right? They came across our paths for a reason. And when those moments and those experiences happen that offer up an opportunity to use some of those lessons, uh, right? And especially playing in social media. And I don't mean to say playing, but in that lightheartedness of what Eamon's persona, character, if you will. I bring the content, right? I could come in and just be the bull in the china shop and just lay it all out there and just drill it in like a construction worker and trigger and traumatize and freak people out that they don't even want to do the work. But if they can see somebody do the work and not have those triggers happen, and maybe those triggers do happen, but at the very least know that I'm prepared, that I have a few tools on the tool belt to deal with whatever situation, right, arises. And even if I'm not dealing with the situation, I am riding the waves of the situation, and everything will be okay. We're still going to get up tomorrow fresh and new, right? A few options to make some choices. It has been surprisingly interesting, curious, kind of sad, exciting, anticipatory, because again, I have no idea what's coming up for me, right? I have no idea how I'm going to put that roof over my head. I'm good for a couple of months, right? I was saving for a car, right? Whoever or whatever decided I was not saving for a car. I was saving for a few months of putting the roof over my head. And I will trust that there's a reason for that, right? At the same time, try to budget that money so it lasts a little bit longer. But I am taking a couple of weeks off. I have taken the past few days off. But again, things are still playing out. So I'm glad I have this time off to really absorb things properly. I don't want to bypass. I don't want to plow through everything. I want to experience the feelings, the emotions that are arising from everything. I called it throwing the wrench in the engine yesterday, but I was thinking today that technically I didn't throw the wrench in the engine, right? Because throwing the wrench in the engine will just beat up the engine and blow things up and break things, and right, and you have no idea where it's going to land. I actually, to the best of my ability, right, found the best perfect moment. And in the end, was it perfect? expected it to be in the moment? Yes. But then other things are playing out, other experiences, other conversations are playing out at the same time that are rubbing up against my experience. And again, it changes. And so I ride the waves at the same time, trying to direct it the best that I can, not in a hard way that I don't feel the tug in the way that I'm supposed to be going, but making some choices. And if there is no pushback in that, I'm just going to carry on, right? In that creation of the best human being I possibly can. Have the best time as I can in that and be as balanced in that as I can, understanding that, right? Things do fall into the engine and get thrown into the engine, but sometimes, right, we learn by the experience of the same problem in the engine exactly where to hold our finger in the carburetor and start that engine so it can all start up because we've just choked it out. I learned a little bit because I was the queen of beaters. I tell you, every single one of my car had a different way of starting, and I would learn the tricks of that, right? Ride those waves, you guys. Uh, Things are moving, and I think they're moving for everybody. And not everybody is talking about it. Not everybody has a platform to talk about it. Not everybody has a friend or family member or somebody that they can trust, or they think they don't have anybody to trust in being able to have a conversation, right? To help ease our minds. Sometimes we just need some company, right? Sometimes we don't even need anybody to say anything, but just to know that there's somebody sitting there appreciating the experience that you're having, right? And maybe hoping that you're appreciating the experience that they're having. And then maybe create an experience, right? That you both can appreciate. You have no idea. Hello, Melvin. Melvin says, I had a good day today. I'm just full of cheer today, Cindy. Oh, you're awesome, right? That you had a really good day. It was full of good cheer. I went out for a little bit today because I was a little bit head heavy. Sometimes I get a little bit of punch drunk and taking a look at the world, seeing different perspectives out there, seeing all those side branches and possibilities where we can, right, maybe take a step into and see if there are solutions or there are comforts or there are tools that we can help ease that little bit of crazy town that goes into our lives, right? uh but yeah, I had a good day today too. I got out for a little bit. I went to the grocery store. I found my hamburger on sale. I spent $45 on ground beef, right? Because it was at a good price, and I don't think it's going to be at that price for a very long time. So I got lots of hamburger to last me a while, a couple months anyway, I would think. And yeah, so tomorrow, I'm not going to do it tonight, I don't think, but I'll package it all up, make meatballs, make some meatloaves. Yeah, and I'll get it all ready, and I'll throw it all in the freezer, and it'll be ready for me to go in my hypervigilance of my little pantry stockpile that I've been putting together, right? Right? I am bumbling along just like everybody else is, right? Trying to anticipate the next moment while I'm riding the waves of this moment, right? And I think we all try to do that a little bit. These days, the price of beef products is just unbelievable. You know, as a kid, I remember my mom used to say, and I used the saying too, is it's No wonder the kids grow up on craft dinner. In the 60s and 70s, craft dinner was it. It's not like what craft dinner is today, but we used to say, uh, uh, right? No wonder kids grow up craft dinner because the price of meat was so expensive. But we still look at the price of meat now, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness. I remember a cheeseburger at McDonald's. I would think maybe 1975, and it was like 25 cents, 50 cents, like, right? And things have changed so much. I don't recall my wage ever going up. In fact, the last job I left, I do believe I've had many jobs where I've made more money. I think my first into I may have made more money than my minimum wage, and yet the cost of living has gone up so much. Even the rent, I remember my last apartment, I moved in there and the rent was $315. And then when I left that apartment, it was $900, that apartment, right? So things have changed, and things are very expensive. I'm glad I live in this country where we get a few subsidies. The government does recognize that it is hard for everybody, right? Um, but at the same time, you can't lift everybody up. You just can't. You can't support every person in the country, but you can help out to show that, right, that you care and you appreciate. And if that money is going to be wasted on other things and taxes that aren't necessary, giving it to low incomes and people who could use that money is a pretty good thing. And yeah, I do appreciate it. Uh I hear a lot about Canada. I understand that people are grumbling a little bit from one end of the border across the other side of the border, but you can't let the understandings of a few dictate how we feel about each other. Remember, the actual border between Canada and the United States was not actually uh, officially set in place until I think it was 1951 or 1959. I think it was 1951. Man, that's not very long ago, is it? It was just an invisible border for almost 100 years. For almost 100 years. And like I said, it wasn't officially set in place until the 1950s. And when people immigrated to North America, right? Here in Winnipeg, we're so close to the border, it takes like 45 minutes to get to the border, maybe an hour to get to the border from here. And in the late 1800s, early 1900s, you would have families, the same families, on both sides of that border, right? Family, family. Yeah, it's a really silly thing, but it's to stir the pot. It's to keep us focused and keep us agitated and keep our attention in those directions to keep us from actually thinking for ourselves, right? And I pop in every once in a while because just like everybody else, I'm a little bit nervous as to what that's all about. But I do recognize that, right? The world is being stirred up and everybody is vying for my attention. And just like everybody else, I'm vying for that attention too. But I think, you know, it's a matter of what's getting our attention. Not that we're not paying attention, but what has got our attention. Are we staring off into space? Are we doing things that are not adding to our life or adding to somebody else's life that right? It should add to our life. I shouldn't say add to somebody else's life, right? Because, right, we have to love what we do. Oh my goodness. You know, it's been on my mind a lot in the past couple of weeks. And today, in my contemplation and the subtopics that have been coming across my path, right? Ugh, it's going to be hard to top the job that I'm coming out of. But I'm going to do it, you guys. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to enjoy it. Okay. Melvin says, my mom's dad, who lived right on the border, would keep the road swamp good and wet. Then he pulled the booze smugglers out of it with his team of horses for money. Funny you say that because about 45 minutes from here, there's a town I do call, is it called Enola? And it was one of those towns. They found tunnels underneath the houses and stuff, and they were for prohibition, right? Prohibition. And they would smuggle the booze across the border. And yeah, we were pretty close to the border. But yeah, that's a story I came across in my urban explanation when I was looking for abandoned houses in that area. And I did find abandoned farm and homesteads, but the houses themselves, no, it was a very small town. Oh, Nancy's here. Hi, Nancy. Don't make the government look good, Cindy. It's corrupt. May America rest in peace because we are doomed. Oh my goodness, I'm part of America too, Nancy, right? Canada of North America. I'm right. I am America. I'm not American, right? United States of America. I am Canada of North America. But yeah, you're probably right in that. But I am not being hyper focused in that because I'm not going to be able to sway any movement out of those characters, right? I'm better at that point in hyper focusing in what's in front of me. And you already lost your medical, Nancy? You already lost your medical? Or is that something that's pending? And your social security, that's like your old age pension? No, you're not that old. You're not at pension age, are you, Nancy? Or maybe the social security is tied in with the disability. I don't know. American policies are a whole lot different than what's going on here in Canada. Oh, your welfare, social security welfare. Okay. Yeah, we call that social assistance here in Manitoba anyway. I don't know about the rest of Canada, but we call it social assistance here. Well, I'm glad you at least still have that, and I hope they don't take that away from you. Oh my goodness, wouldn't that be something? Yeah, we live in crazy town right now, Nancy, but you called it, didn't you? You called it a few months ago. You called it even before the election. You knew exactly what was going to go on, but you didn't know about the tariffs. Did you know about the tariffs, Nancy? I'd be curious to know that, right? Because I know you are involved in the politics, especially when it comes to your own well being, right? Nancy's in a chair. She doesn't mind me say. So when you think that she's being hard in her opinions, it's because this actually affects her personally in her own life, right? Oh, I don't think he would do that. He seems to be right. I don't think he's actually a thief. I think he's actually trying to find money so that right, he can make America great again. You knew about the tariffs, Nancy. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you were right on the ball that on that. You said even before Christmas time. I remember you coming into the lives and talking about what Trump was up to. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I heard about that too. All those pensions that are being paid out. And they found all that money too. Yeah, that's all really interesting. I know Elon Musk is busy. I was wondering why he wasn't in the picture in the past week or so, and that's because he's out there rescuing the astronauts right now. Oh, poor guy. He'll get retroactive and he'll get his money back. I don't think they're trying to steal money. They're just trying to sort out where all the money is going to in the moment. Yeah, Melvin likes the politics too, Nancy. Oh my goodness. I remember when Melvin's first started coming into my live shows. Oh my goodness. It took us a couple of months to get him mellowed out a little bit, right? Because, yeah, he is very passionate about the politics too, Nancy. He really is. Okay, before we get deeper into the politics, let's pull out a card, you guys. And let's pull out a card and just go for a couple of minutes and have a conversation about it. First perspective that comes to my mind, and then we'll call it a night. It's so nice to have you pop in, you guys. Thank you, Melvin. Thank you, Nancy, for popping in. If you lived in Canada, Nancy would be a liberal. My dad was a liberal. I don't vote. There are causes that are dear to me, especially in children's welfare, So I would like to see better. How am I going to look at it? Curriculum, a better curriculum for the young children in school. I would also like to see that, that there is better directives for these kids, that we have a better understanding of where these kids are emotionally, physically, and mentally when they actually get into the system. And, unfortunately, right, we can't trust that the parents are going to do that. And, for all the kids to be healthy, right? We are who we surround ourselves with, and we can't segregate, we can't separate anymore. It takes all kinds to make the world. So we have to find solutions so that, the kids can grow up. And for me, that's having better sets of values and actually supporting and upholding the children's own identities, right? And helping them to be healthy human beings, right? Not dictate the human being that they're going to be, but help them to discover it for themselves, right? So, I don't know if there are programs in that. I don't know. I did right here come across, and it got stuck in my flood when my house flooded, but none of the pages got ruined. There's a little bit of moisture wrinkle, but all the lessons are still here. And the reason I'm in mindset is because in getting some mentorship, in getting back on my feet and getting back to work, I recognized my mindset lessons in these lessons. And this is a government program. This is something that the government put together to help people, the public, get back on their feet and get off the welfare system or what have you, right? That this is exactly what I've been studying for half a dozen years. And yet the government calls this um, addictions module. They call it an addictions module. So this is what this program is based on. And it's mindset. And it teaches us how to uphold values and actually to put ourselves in other people's feet so we can better understand people, right? Better understand people so we don't hurt, disrespect, right? Others or ourselves. Yeah, so many things. Unhelpful thinking styles, the all or nothing thinking, the mental filter, only paying attention to certain types of evidence, jumping to conclusions, right? And that's me, always jumping. I think I'm some kind of mind reader sometimes. Emotional reasoning, labeling, overgeneralizing, disqualifying the positive, magnification, catastrophizing, and minimization. And I used to call that effect, right? You know, that forward thinking and kind of looking to see where we make our mistakes. Those dominoes are going to go off the track, right? Using critical words, right? Should and must. Yeah, this is all mindset. And yet they call it an addictions module. And I think this would be perfect program for schools, for young kids to help build confidence and help kids individualize and understand and connect with themselves a little bit better, because we're not going to be able to connect with others until we can learn to connect better with ourselves, right? So I don't know where I got onto that again. I guess it had something to do with Nancy and politics and programs and stuff, right? Um, Let me come back in here. See where Melvin and Nancy are talking. Um, I don't know, Nancy. See, I don't know him and I don't know the situation. And because of my understanding about social media and that vying for my attention, I've been online. I've seen a lot of BS going on online, like actual lies, like blatant lies, and coming from not even our continent. They're coming from like India and China and right and people are saying things just because they can say things. So I would like to experience and learn these things for myself. And so in the moment, I don't have any judgment. I'm not an expert, right? On the orange guy. What do you call him? The orange guy? Wow. I don't even know what you guys are talking about. I don't know what MAGA is. Aw. Aw. Well, you can come and hang out. You can come and hang out here, Nancy. You can come and visit me. Yes. And, right, the price in Canada are just crazy. And you have to remember, like, I paid $45 for maybe 12 pounds of hamburger today. And that was on sale. And that was probably going to be as cheap as it's going to be. But that $12 Canadian, well, if you put it into American money, what does that work out to? Maybe $8, right? Oh my goodness. Don't say that word though, Nancy. I don't like those racial words on my channel. Right? It does take all kinds to make the world, but because I have, right, boundaries, and that's one of the boundaries, right? That we don't bring up those things, right? You would shut them down. Okay, you guys, did I pick a word? Did I pick a word? I don't think I picked a word. Let's pick a word. Oh, you don't have to say sorry, Nancy. I'm just saying, right? 68 cents to the Canadian dollar. Oh my goodness. What a great word, you guys. Right? Couple of minutes, you guys. Let's do perseverance. Right? And that is just moving forward, not giving up. Nancy, right? That perseverance. Never giving up. She'll find a way. She'll ride those waves. I'll ride those waves, right? That when things get tough, I'm going to have to be a little bit tougher. And if I can't be a little bit tougher, I'm just going to find a way just to keep moving, right? Just to keep moving, to never give up. That perseverance, to know what's right and what's wrong for me, and Nancy knowing what's right and wrong for her, and Melvin having a totally different idea and knowing what's right or wrong for him, to each one of us to be able to make that decision, right? But wouldn't it be amazing that we could make those decisions for ourselves and not judge each other because we made a different decision? I've had so many different people in my life as friends, all kinds of people, right? I'm just thinking of my friend Rick. Oh, his whole family was bad people. Not bad people, bad things, right? They were the bouncers in the bar that I worked at. And they were the big, big, what do you call those pins? The big pins, right? And they ran the show, they ran the bar, and lots of people were beholden to them because, well, they needed what they had to offer. But he was so kind. I called him my nice bad guy, right? I bump into him every once in a while. He's so polite. He's so kind. And yet, he's not going to be a friend of mine, right? Because you are who you surround yourself with. But to understand, he had every right to be the person that he was. And in his community, I believe he was an angel in his community. He was a toughie. He was a hard one, but he was a small one and he was a kind one. And in his community, I bet you they looked at him like he was the leader. And everybody should have that right, not to be looked down upon or be judged because you're supposedly the bad guy, or you're the bad boss, or you're the tough coach or the tough teacher, or you're the mean next door neighbor, right, who's always grumbling about your dog or whatever it is. To be able that we can have these dynamic personalities around us and not have affect us personally, right? Or have somebody not be my friend because Rick was my friend. I would have to understand that. I would have to respect that in their boundaries. But in my boundaries, I get to choose who I'm going to surround myself with. And I look at intent. I read energy, you guys. I read the energy. And I feel intent strongly. And, I don't know. Maybe it's why I feel safe when I go for evening walks and stuff. When I have conversations with people, I know where I can politely exit, or if I can move a little bit closer or go a little bit deeper. It takes all kinds to make the world. And if we're going to persevere, we're going to need the person standing next to us. I'm going to need Nancy. And I'm going to need Melvin, right? And in having that, I'm not just going to move forward, but Nancy's going to move forward, and Melvin's going to move forward, and anybody else that hangs with us, right? We're all going to move forward. You guys, that's my good cheer for tonight. It has been a doozy week. I am trying to unwind in that, but sometimes in my trying to unwind, I go a little bit deeper because I'm looking for solutions, not recognizing that the solutions will come to me. I don't have to go to them. Okay, you guys, have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Night, Nancy. Have a great night. Thank you, Melvin, for popping in.